You're listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bob Keane. I am the editor-in-chief of the internationally renowned journal Fire Ecology. Fire Ecology is a journal that is published by Springer Nature, but overseen by the Association for Fire Ecology. Today, we are going to talk about a very, very interesting paper. The name of the paper is Topographic Conditions Dominate Tree Species Recovery Over 15 Years Post-Fire in Temperate Pinus sylvestris Forests. And to talk about that paper, we have the senior author, Jan Holik. Jan, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. I'm a postdoc. I work at the Landscape Research Institute, Forest Ecology Department in Brno, Czechia.
Thank you for giving your time and talking about this very important paper. Can you tell us why did you decide to write this paper?
In Central Europe, large amphibian fires have been relatively rare in the last several decades. So we don't know much about how tree species regenerate after any kind of disturbance. So this paper is about to introduce and to set our expectations right about how trees regenerate after different kinds of disturbances.
That's what makes this paper special is it's different disturbances and then in a place where nobody really has studied very much. So can you tell us about the study? Give us a thumbnail sketch of what the paper is all about.
Well, the goal of the study was to look at tree regeneration patterns, because I think what people usually do is to overlook that species after any disturbance, but specifically after fires, rise very quickly and decline very quickly too. So this is to recognize that we need to look at tree regeneration patterns in the long term, because we basically observed that species rise and decline within short periods of time. And while trying to predict future species composition of any forest with such data, it would be a very biased conclusion.
That's exactly right. So what did you find? Give us a peek at what the results are.
Well, the study had three main layers. We look at different regeneration patterns of individual species, but also at the regeneration of the whole community. So we see that within the first 5 years, usually early succession broadly regenerate, but wild species such as common aspen was the most dominant right after fire. And within another 5 years, another early successional species, the bird, took over and became the most dominant just after 5 years. And also after these 5 years, pine, the pre-fire dominant species, was also quite abundant. So one would expect that after fire, the community would become a mixture of pine and silver birch, common aspen, but Scotch pine turned out to be less dominant in the composition 15 years after fire. So we see some transition from the original Scotch pine stand to early successional broadleaves, mostly dominated by silver birch. And it's also important to note that some groups of species, ecologically similar, tend to have synchronized regeneration patterns, such as these early successional broadleaves have synchronized regeneration over time. They recover with the same timeline, let's say, and also decline with the same time, because we see that after 5 years and later on, most of these species decline, except silver birch. While after 15 years after the fire, we see that shade tolerance becomes to be a bit more abundant. They definitely not dominate, but become more abundant. So we see some shifts in species compositions.
That is really, really interesting. Thanks for that. So what are the management implications of your findings? How can the findings be used in managing the species?
Land managers and anyone else basically need to recognize that forest recovery after fire through ecological processes can be very complicated and definitely not straightforward, because each species can recover with unique trajectories, while there are some wider synchronized community trends. And so species dominance switches very quickly over time. Tree regeneration after fire through ecological processes can be very complicated, and we just need to follow the nature storyline here.
Well, geez, Jan, I'm really happy that you were able to join us today and tell us about this incredibly interesting paper. Would you like to recognize any co-authors or funding agencies?
Yeah, definitely, because this research started like 15 years ago, and I haven't been involved in this activity yet. So initially, that was activity of few students and my previous colleagues. So I'd like to thank them for their efforts 15 years ago. very happy that I could continue with that. And also, would like to thank my golfers, right? So my Davide Agni, Pavel Shamonil, Kamil Král, and Libor Hor.
Well, thanks again for coming and sharing your results with us. I really appreciate it. And for those of you listening, if you want to read all about this paper, guess what? You can download it for free at our website, the Fire Ecology website. That's right, I said free because Jan and his group has already paid the freight for you to read the paper. So go ahead, download this paper and read it. I'm sure you'll be as interested as I was. And with that, I want to thank you again, Jan Holik, and please tune in for the next Fire Ecology Chat.
Thank you for listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our show and leave us a review. To learn more about fire ecology and support our future work by becoming a member, visit fireecology.org. FIREECOLOGY.org.